The Scavenger's discovery. The salvage bay of Deimos Station reeked of ozone and burnt metal. Kai Voss pulled his respirator tighter against his face as he sorted through the latest shipment of Zephyrian refuse. Twisted hull fragments, dead power, cells, and corroded weapon housings that the alien overlords had deemed worthless enough to dump in human space. 43 years. That's how long the Zephyrians had ruled Earth and her colonies, and for 43 years, humanity had survived. On their scraps, the aliens had arrived with ships that blotted out the sun, weapons that turned mountains to glass, and technology so advanced that human resistance lasted exactly 17 hours. But they hadn't come to destroy. They'd come to harvest. Earth's resources, her people, her ingenuity, all carefully extracted while leaving just enough humans alive to do the dirty work. Kai had been born into this reality. At 28, he'd never known a free Earth, never seen blue skies without the shadow of Zephyrian patrol craft. But he had a gift, an intuitive understanding of technology that made him invaluable to the scavengers of Deimos Station. While others saw junk, Kai saw potential. Another load of their rejects, muttered Jet, his work partner, kicking a twisted piece of alien alloy. Sometimes I wonder if they dump this crap here just to mock us. Kai didn't respond. Something had caught his eye, a cylindrical object buried beneath a pile of damaged shield generators. Unlike the other debris, this piece was intact, its dark surface unmarked by battle damage. Too intact. He pulled it free, surprised by its weight. The surface was smooth, almost organic, with faint lines that seemed to pulse with their own rhythm. No human technology looked like this, but it wasn't quite Zephyrian either. The aliens' tech was all sharp angles and crystal matrices. This was different. Older, somehow. What have you got there? Jet asked, wandering over. Not sure. Kai ran. His scanner along the object's surface, the readings made no sense. Massive energy potential, but dormant. Hidden. Looks like it's powered down, but the core signature is off the charts. Probably booby-trapped. You know how they are about their tech falling into the wrong hands. Kai knew. Any human caught with functioning Zephyrian technology faced immediate execution. But this wasn't functioning, at least not obviously. The power signatures were masked, disguised to look like dead weight. Someone had deliberately hidden this thing's true nature. As he studied the object more closely, Kai noticed something that made his blood run cold. Etched into the base, barely visible, were human numerical markings. Not Zephyrian script. Human. Someone had marked this device, cataloged it, prepared it. Jet, he said quietly. How long has this shipment been here? Came in yesterday from the Titan yards. Why? Yesterday. The same day Commander Hadley's resistance cell had been captured trying to raid a Zephyrian weapons depot. The same day 3 industrial accidents had killed key figures in the underground movement across the outer colonies. Kai's hands trembled as the implications hit him. This wasn't random junk. It was a message, a gift. Someone inside the Zephyrian hierarchy, or someone with access to their technology, had deliberately placed this device where human scavengers would find it. We need to get this to the deep storage, Kai said, wrapping the object in insulation cloth. And we need to keep this quiet. Kai, what aren't you telling me? He looked at his friend, loyal, simple Jet, who'd never hurt anyone in his life. I think someone just handed us the key to fighting back. The object felt warm against his chest as he carried it to the station's secured levels. For the first time in his life, Kai Voss allowed himself to hope that 43 years of oppression might finally be coming to an end. The underground network, the ice tunnels beneath Europa's frozen surface, had been carved by mining equipment decades before, the Zephyrian conquest. Now they served a different purpose, hiding the last free humans in the solar system. Marcus Rivera, known to the Resistance as Forge, pressed his palm against the bioscanner and waited for the massive blast doors to cycle open. You're late, said Nix Castellanos, his second in command, as he entered the main cavern. Her cybernetic eye whirred softly as it focused on the sealed case he carried. Had to take the long route. Zephyrian patrol drones are getting smarter. Forge set the case on the central workbench, surrounded by a dozen engineers, hackers, and ex-military personnel who comprised the core of Titan Cell, one of the few resistance groups still operating. 3 days had passed since Kai Voss had smuggled the mysterious device off Deimos Station. The young scavenger sat nervously in the corner, still processing the fact that he'd somehow made contact with humanity's most wanted fugitives. "Show me," Forge said simply. Kai opened the case with trembling fingers. The cylindrical object seemed to absorb the harsh LED lighting, its dark surface rippling with barely visible energy patterns. The room fell silent. "Mierda," whispered Rico Vega, Forge's weapons specialist. "That's not standard Zeph tech." Forge had seen plenty of alien technology during his 15 years as a resistance fighter. Before the conquest, he'd been a systems engineer for Earth defense, one of the few humans who'd actually studied captured Zephyrian equipment before the war ended. This device was different. Older, more sophisticated. "Kai, tell me again where you found this." The scavenger repeated his story, emphasizing the human markings and the suspicious timing of the shipment. Forge listened while his hands moved over the object's surface, probing for access points. "Nix, bring up the database. Cross-reference this design with anything we've got on pre-conquest Zephyrian artifacts." His lieutenant's fingers danced over her console. "Nothing matches. But Marcus," she paused, her organic eye widening while the cybernetic one continued scanning data streams. "The energy signature is familiar. Remember the Prometheus incident?" Forge's blood chilled. Prometheus Station had been humanity's most advanced research facility, hidden in the asteroid belt and focused on reverse engineering alien technology. 6 months ago, it had simply vanished. No distress signal, no debris field, nothing. "You think this came from Prometheus?" The quantum resonance patterns matched their experimental profiles. If someone there cracked Zephyrian tech and managed to get this out before, she didn't need to finish. If Prometheus had fallen, its researchers were either dead or worse, but they might have succeeded in creating something the Zephyrians feared. Forge found what he was looking for. A hairline seam that responded to pressure applied in a specific sequence. The device opened like a flower, revealing a core of swirling energy contained within crystalline matrices that definitely weren't Zephyrian in origin. Sweet mother of... Rico leaned closer. "Is that a quantum cascade generator?" "Modified," Forge confirmed, his engineer's mind racing as he traced the power flows. "But not just modified, evolved. This isn't using Zephyrian principles at all. It's something else entirely." Dr. Yuki Tanaka, their resident physicist, pushed forward with her scanner. "The quantum field harmonics are completely stable. Whatever civilization built this had technology that makes the Zephyrians look primitive." "But who?" Kai asked. "The Zephs conquered everyone, didn't they?" Forge was studying the human markings more closely now. Not just numbers, coordinates, and a name he recognized from classified pre-war files. Dr. Elizabeth Rain, Prometheus Station's lead xenoarchaeologist. "Maybe not everyone," he said quietly. "Nix, patch me through to Phoenix Cell and Nova Base, Priority Alpha." "What are you thinking, Marcus?" He looked around at his team, brilliant, desperate people who'd spent decades fighting an impossible war with stolen scraps and jury-rigged equipment. For the first time in years, he saw something other than grim determination in their eyes. "I'm thinking Dr. Rain found something at Prometheus, something the Zephyrians didn't want us to have, and I'm thinking she managed to get it to us before they silenced her." The device pulsed brighter as if responding to his words. Around the cavern, the other resistance members began to gather, drawn by the unprecedented energy readings on their instruments. "Can we use it?" Nix asked. Forge smiled, the first genuine smile his people had seen from him in months. "We're going to do more than use it. We're going to figure out how to build more of them. The Zephyrians gave us 43 years to study. They're cast-offs." He touched the alien artifact almost reverently. "Time to show them what we learned." The first strike Zara Quinn floated in the cockpit of her modified stealth fighter, Phantom's Edge, watching the Zephyrian supply convoy crawl through the asteroid field near Ganymede. 3 massive haulers escorted by a pair of destroyers. Enough firepower to level a small moon, moving with the arrogant confidence of predators who'd never known fear. "Ghost, you're clear for approach," crackled Forge's voice through the encrypted comm. "Remember, we only get one shot at this." Zara's call sign had been earned through 5 years of impossible infiltrations behind enemy lines. She was a shadow. In space, a whisper of death that Zephyrian crews had learned to fear without ever seeing. But this mission was different. This time she wasn't running silent assassinations or data theft. This time she had teeth. The weapon, now integrated into her ship's core systems, hummed with barely contained power. 3 weeks of sleepless nights had gone into reverse engineering the quantum cascade generator, and they still didn't fully understand how it worked. They just knew it did. Phoenix Leader, this is Ghost. Beginning attack run. Her fighter's hull shifted adaptive camouflage, rendering it nearly invisible against the asteroid backdrop. The Zephyrians had never developed technology to match human stealth capabilities, another sign of their overconfidence. The first destroyer passed within 2 kilometers, its sensors sweeping the void without detecting her presence. Zara armed the quantum cascade weapon, feeling her ship's entire power grid redirect to feed the alien device. Target locked. Firing. The weapon didn't fire in any conventional sense. Instead, reality seemed to bend around her ship. A wave of distorted space-time rippled outward, invisible to the naked eye but devastating to anything it touched. The Zephyrian destroyer's shields, impenetrable barriers that had turned aside humanity's most powerful weapons for 4 decades, simply ceased to exist. Not overloaded, not penetrated, erased. The wave continued through the ship's hull, causing molecular bonds to unravel in cascading failure. The massive warship folded in on itself like paper, its death scream cutting across all frequencies. "Holy shit," breathed Talon, her wingman. "Ghost, what did you just do?" Before she could answer, the second destroyer had turned toward her position, plasma cannons charging. But Zara was already moving, her fighter dancing through the asteroid, field with inhuman precision. She'd trained in these fields as a child, one of the few advantages humans retained over their conquerors. The Zephyrian ship fired, superheated plasma turning asteroids to vapor as it tried to track her. But she was Ghost, and ghosts didn't die easy. She came at them from below, using Ganymede's gravity well to mask her approach. The quantum weapon fired again, and the second destroyer joined its companion in oblivion. The convoy's haulers began, broadcasting distress signals. Their escort gone in less than 30 seconds, Zara felt a moment of something she hadn't experienced in years. Pure, undiluted hope. "Phoenix cells, move in for salvage operations," she commanded. "We've got..." The hyperspace signature hit her sensors like a physical blow. Not one ship. 20. A full Zephyrian battle group dropping out of FTL, their arrival perfectly timed. It's a trap, she realized, her blood turning to ice. They knew we were coming. The lead ship was a heavy cruiser, Subjugator's Pride, commanded by someone whose tactical signature she recognized from a dozen previous encounters. Commander Vex Thorn, the Zephyrian officer who'd made hunting human resistance his personal obsession. "Ghost, get out of there!" Forge's voice crackled with static as Zephyrian jammers engaged. But Zara was already running, her fighter screaming toward the outer system as plasma fire lit up space around her. She'd gotten careless, drunk on the weapon's power. The Zephyrians had used the convoy as bait, gambling that the resistance would reveal their new capability, and she'd given them exactly what they wanted. Behind her, the Phoenix cells salvage, ships scattered like startled birds, most wouldn't make it. The quantum weapon had given them a victory, but victories came with prices. As she jumped to hyperspace, leaving the carnage behind, Zara's comm crackled with an encrypted message from the enemy flagship. Commander Thorn's voice was cold, precise, utterly without mercy. "Attention, human insects, you have demonstrated capabilities beyond your authorized parameters. Corrective measures will now be implemented. Your resistance cells have 48 hours to surrender unconditionally, or we will begin systematic elimination of human colonies, starting with the civilian populations of Europa." The message repeated 3 times, then cut to static. Zara, slumped in her pilot's seat, hands shaking as the magnitude of what she'd unleashed hit home. They'd wanted to show the Zephyrians that humanity could fight back. Instead, they'd painted a target on every human in the solar system. Forge, she whispered into her comm as she set course for Europa. We've got a problem. The quantum weapon had worked perfectly. But perfection, she was learning, was just another word for catastrophe waiting to happen. The hunt begins. The bridge of Dominion's edge thrummed with controlled fury. Commander Vex Thorn stood before the tactical display, his 6-foot frame rigid with barely contained rage as he studied the sensor recordings from the Ganymede incident. 2 destroyers, gone. Not disabled, not captured, erased. Analysis, he commanded, his voice carrying the authority of someone who'd spent 15 years crushing human resistance movements. Subcommander Krill, his intelligence officer, manipulated the holographic display with precise movements of her clawed hands. The weapon signature is unlike anything in our databases. The energy discharge appears to create localized quantum field collapse, effectively unraveling molecular bonds at the subatomic level. Thorn's mandibles clicked in thought, a sign his subordinates had learned to fear. Origin? Unknown. The technology predates our arrival in this system, possibly pre-conquest human development or, she hesitated. Speak. Or its architect technology. The bridge fell silent. Even the soft hum of the ship's system seemed muted. The architects, the ancient race whose ruins dotted dead worlds throughout the galaxy, had vanished eons before the Zephyrian Empire began its expansion. Their technology was beyond even Zephyrian understanding, which was precisely why the High Command had classified all architect sites as forbidden. Impossible, Thorn said, but his voice lacked conviction. All architect sites were sterilized, per Protocol 7. All known sites, Commander. Our xenoarchaeology reports from the Terran system indicated possible architect presence in the outer asteroid belts. Prometheus Station was investigating before we eliminated it. Thorn's eyes narrowed. Bring me the Prometheus files, everything. As Krill accessed the classified databases, Thorn walked to the viewport. Below, Europa's ice-covered surface gleamed like a pearl against the black of space. Somewhere beneath that frozen shell, the human resistance was multiplying like a virus. 43. Years ago, when the Zephyrian fleet had arrived at Earth, humanity's surrender had been swift and complete. Their weapons were primitive, their tactics predictable, their technology laughably inferior. The conquest had been less a war than a harvesting operation. But Thorn had been there. He'd seen something in human eyes that his fellow commanders had missed. Not just fear, but calculation. Humans didn't just surrender. They adapted, they learned, they endured, and now they had architect technology. Sir, Communications Officer Dex called out. Priority transmission from High Command. The tactical display shimmered, replaced by the imposing figure of Admiral Zeth Corvin, Supreme Commander of the Terran Occupation Force. His scarred face filled the screen, golden eyes burning with cold intelligence. Thorn, report. Admiral, the human resistance has acquired weapons technology of significant capability. I've implemented containment protocols and issued surrender ultimatums. Unacceptable. Corvin's voice carried the weight of absolute authority. The High Council is concerned. If these humans have accessed architect sites, the implications extend far beyond this single system. Thorn felt a chill run down his spine. The High Council rarely concerned itself with individual human uprisings. Orders, sir. You have authorization to implement the cleansing protocol. Begin with the civilian population centers. Demonstrate that resistance has consequences. The transmission ended, leaving Thorn staring at his reflection in the blank screen. The cleansing protocol. Systematic execution of human populations until compliance was achieved. He'd used it before on other worlds, but never on this scale. Sir? Krill approached cautiously. The Prometheus files. Thorn reviewed the data. his tactical mind piecing together the truth. Prometheus Station hadn't been conducting weapons research. They'd been investigating an architect site hidden in the asteroid belt. Dr. Elizabeth Rain's final report mentioned quantum cascade generators and something called inheritance protocols. The humans hadn't just found architect technology, they'd been given it. Subcommander, begin implementation of cleansing protocol at Europa Colony 7. Public execution of 1,000 civilians unless the resistance surrenders within 12 hours. Understood, sir. And if they don't surrender? Thorne's mandibles clicked again, the sound sharp and final. Then we remind them why they feared us in the first place. Beneath Europa's ice, the resistance base erupted in chaos. Zara had returned with news of the trap. But worse was coming. Intercepted Zephyrian communications spoke of cleansing protocols and civilian targets. They're going to kill innocents because of what we did, Kai said, staring at the quantum weapon he'd discovered. Maybe we should surrender? Forge's voice cut through the argument like a blade. Hand over the one thing that can actually hurt them? To save lives? Yes. No. The voice came from an unexpected source, Dr. Yuki Tanaka, who'd been silent since the crisis began. I've been analyzing the weapon's quantum signature. This isn't random architect technology. It's been specifically calibrated for Zephyrian shield frequencies. The room fell silent. Someone wanted us to have this, she continued. Someone who knew exactly what we'd face. The question is, who? Before anyone could answer, alarm screamed through the base. Nix's voice echoed from the communications center. Incoming transmission. It's coming from inside Thorne's flagship. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a figure in Zephyrian military uniform. But the face was human. Scarred, augmented with alien technology, but unmistakably human. My name is Dr. Elizabeth Rain, the figure said. If you're receiving this, then the inheritance protocol has been activated. I don't have much time before they discover this transmission, so listen carefully. Forge gripped the edge of the console. She's alive. The architects didn't just leave behind weapons, Rain continued. They left behind a choice. The Zephyrians aren't the apex predators they pretend to be. They're refugees fleeing something even worse, and that something is coming. The transmission began to break up, static crawling across the image. The quantum cascades aren't just weapons, they're keys. Find the other sites. Activate the network. Humanity's real test isn't surviving the Zephyrians, it's replacing them. The screen went dark. In the silence that followed, Forge slowly turned to face his team. Outside, Colony 7's execution countdown continued, but for the first time, since the conquest began, humanity had a purpose beyond mere survival. They had a destiny.